Hello everyone and welcome to the Q30 Sports ECAC Semifinal Preview. I'm Gabbi Riggi. The Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team defeated the defending national champion Union Dutchman in a 3-game series, 2-1, to advance to the ECAC Semifinals in Lake Placid, where they'll take on Harvard this Friday. Joining me, I have Connor Fortier. Connor, why don't you tell us a little bit about this matchup? What should we expect from both Quinnipiac and Harvard?
Well, I think from this matchup, we're going to see strong goaltending on both sides. Stephen Michael, he really helped this Harvard team get to this point, getting the win in a double overtime win against Alex Lyon and the Yale Bulldogs. Alex Lyon, obviously one of the best goaltenders in all the nation this year, and to pull out a double overtime win at Yale really has to do a lot of with Michael and the strong defense in front of him. And I think we're probably going to see the same thing with Quinnipiac. Michael Gartig was almost the same type of role player this weekend against Union. He really stood on his head in a couple moments and almost saved the Bobcats in a couple moments in this weekend and stole maybe at least one game from this weekend.
All right, now this Harvard team looks a little bit different than the one that the Bobcats faced here in Hamden in December. Can you tell us a little bit about what aspects of those games and what changes have happened to this team that can be a problem for Quinnipiac?
Well, it's going to be Patrick McNally, one of the best defensemen on this team. He's been pretty much unhealthy all season and is now back healthy. He was back healthy against Yale after they said he wasn't even going to play for the rest of the season. McNally comes up against Yale, and he's type of a puck-moving defenseman. And if Quinnipiac wants to play their 1-3-1 trap and try to cause turnovers in the neutral zone and have a little bit of offensive counterplay, Patrick McNally is the type of player that will break through that 1-3-1 and really try to send the puck in deep so Harvard's able to get in there with their forwards like Chris Colo and VZ and try to get the forecheck going. So the one probably biggest difference in this matchup, besides the injuries like we'll talk about later for Quinnipiac, is probably Patrick McNally coming back from the Harvard Crimson. Like I said, he can break that 1-3-1 of Quinnipiac, and if he does, it's going to be a hard time for the Quinnipiac defense below the goal line.
Now, you touched on this a little bit. Quinnipiac is going into the playoffs now without their leading scorer, Sam Ennis. How does this team have to adjust with the loss of Ennis now?
Well, obviously, Ennis is a huge loss. He's been one of the best players, if not the best player, definitely the best goal scorer on this team throughout the year. I'm seeing that probably KJ Typhonworth is going to get called up and put in the top 9 forwards for the Bobcats. We're probably going to see somewhat of the same lines from last week, with Typhonworth being put in either on the bottom 2 lines, or maybe someone like Tim Clifton may be coming up centering one of the top 2 lines. Matthew Peck or Soren Janssen, they're going to stay together. They've been hot. Soren Janssen obviously scoring the 2 goals in the Game 3 clinching win against Union on Sunday. So they're going to stay together, and I can't imagine St. Denis being with anyone else. Maybe with Barron, after keeping it on Barron just for a little bit. But it's got to be St. Denis up there on that first line. Barron probably on the right wing. Who's on that left wing is still to be determined. Maybe they move Landon Smith up there on that left wing and separated from Pekka, but I'd be surprised if head coach Rand Pecknell did that, because that line of Janssen, Pekka, and Landon Smith has been working. Landon Smith, if it wasn't for St. Lawrence's goaltender, probably would be the leading runner for rookie of the year in the conference in the ECAC. So I can't see those 2 lines really moving up that much, besides maybe that left wing on the first line where Ennis was getting spot up with someone else. The bottom 2 lines will be interchangeable, but that's basically what we're going to see from Quinnipiac most likely this weekend in the absence of Ennis.
All right, now let's switch it over. We'll take a look at now the Colgate-St. Lawrence matchup. What are 2 hallmarks of these teams? What makes them dangerous coming into these ECAC semis?
Well, what makes St. Lawrence dangerous is Kyle Hayden. He's, like I said, he's most likely to be the rookie of the conference this year. He's really kept St. Lawrence in this conference. They were picked to finish somewhere towards the bottom half of this conference in the preseason poll, and they lost 2 of their best players in the carries coming into the season. So no one really thought St. Lawrence was going to get here, and he's mainly the reason why. Yes, there's Gunnar Hughes. He's also had a solid year like himself, but it's only Gunnar Hughes and Mike Marnell that have double-digit goals for this team. This team kind of relies on depth of scoring, not really relying on one player to score, kind of like we see Quinnipiac does with Ennis. But they're spread out, and that's what makes them a very balanced and permissible team. But Colgate, they kind of are the same way. Charlie Finn, who had a great season last year, now stepping up this year. Colgate's been plagued with injuries a little bit. They haven't really had their best player, Spyro Goulakis, defenseman, and also the line with Bond and the Spinks. We've seen how dangerous they are. Colgate ended Quinnipiac's run last year in the ECAC in the double overtime win with a goal coming from Tyson Spink. And that team, if it wasn't for the line of VC and Chris Colo, that would be probably one of the better lines in the conference. So this team is definitely spread out like St. Lawrence, and that's why it's a very, very interesting matchup. I think this is probably going to be the most interesting game throughout the whole tournament, just because, like I said, they're very spread out, they're very balanced, and they know how to play their game, and they're going to stick to their game and not really try to change it, especially on that bigger ice up there in Lake Placid, that Olympic style ice. We saw it affect the game last year between Quinnipiac and Colgate. Is a lot faster, and Colgate seemed to have the advantage. And St. Lawrence is also a very fast team, so that would be a very fast game with a very tight forechecking game as well.
All right, Connor, now I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
All right.
Predictions. Who do we see winning each of the matchups, and who do you have winning the Whitelock Cup?
I see Quinnipiac coming away from Harvard. We all know Harvard's an up-and-down team. They might be on the up right now, especially coming off a double overtime win. To get them to this point, that's a big momentum game. But I think Quinnipiac is definitely going to step up in the right time. And they noticed that their best player just went down, and that does a lot for a team, and especially for a young team like this. This is where the juniors and the seniors are going to have to step up, and I think the biggest junior or senior that's going to have to step up is Michael Gartic. He's going to have to step up, and I think he will, and advance QU to the championship. Now, as far as St. Lawrence, Colgate, I'm going to say Colgate is actually going to take away this one. Colgate, like I said, has been pretty much not without their full roster all year until this past weekend. So that's a very big part. They now have their full roster together, like I said, with Gulakas coming back. They're going to find that chemistry immediately, and they're going to come against, like I said, a very fast St. Lawrence team. But I see Colgate coming up against Quinnipiac in the championship. Now, the championship, this is a rematch of the semifinals last year. In my book, it will be a very, very close game. But ultimately, I think because of the lack of spread out scoring for QU with Annis gone, I think Colgate will repeat as ECAC champions. I know it's kind of out there. A lot of people probably didn't see that because Colgate wasn't really kind of on the outside looking in. Then they went 6-0-1 before the tournament started and got them in this bye situation. So I think Colgate's going to ride the hot hand, especially with Charlie Finn. We see how he came up big last year against Quinnipiac. So I see Colgate coming away with the ECAC championship again.
All right, that's all we have time for tonight. For all of our Lake Placid coverage, be sure to follow us online at www.q30television.com and on Twitter at Q30 Sports. For Connor Fortier, I'm Gabbi Riggi. Take care, everyone.